Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Classic X-Men number 4, cover dated December 1986, but we're looking at the back cover of the particular issue, and the back cover is by John Bolton, and it was John Bolton who collaborated with Chris Claremont on the B stories, or the backup stories of these issues, because of course Classic X-Men was a vehicle for reprinting the original stories in Uncanny X-Men by Dave Cockrum and Chris Claremont, and then subsequently Chris Claremont and John Byrne, in an era when there wasn't every back issue collected in trade paperbacks and hardcover collections the way it is now in 2025. So this was a very welcome vehicle for fans who couldn't afford the original back issues because they'd shot up in price on account of their scarcity and also the desirability of getting hands on those original issues of what was a classic run by this point, 1986. So you can see the front cover here by Arthur Adams, inked by P. Craig Russell, and this concerns the reprinted story inside, which is from Uncanny X-Men 96. But as I said, this is what we're here for in respect of this particular review video. It is the B or backup story, which is one of the finest ones that Claremont produced for Classic X-Men. So obviously the back cover featuring Nightcrawler and Wolverine. Wolverine's got his claws popped and Nightcrawler's up there resting, smiling on the branch above Wolverine's head. What on earth could be going on? Well, let's get into it, but just prior to that, we can see the credits here. So the Claremont and Bolton story is on pages 21 to 32 of this particular comic. John Bolton is doing the pencils, the inks. The letterer is Tom Orzechowski and the colorist Glynis Oliver. You can see a nice little inside cover image there by Arthur Adams featuring Nightcrawler. And what I would say is that this particular story, there's Nightcrawler again in the original Cockrum drawn issue. What I would say about this one is that this is a backup story that is a spotlight on Nightcrawler. And so you can imagine, excuse me, that the back cover we just saw there either comes before or after this splash page. But thinking about Nightcrawler, Nightcrawler was a character that was Dave Cockrum's favorite in the all different X-Men. And Claremont here, years later, after 1978 or thereabouts, 1977 even, I would say, for issue 96, is going back to Nightcrawler in this particular era. You can see the original costumes here, and thinking about who is the character and coming up with a story here, an untold story of a pivotal moment in Nightcrawler's personal development. And I think it's a great one. So the title of the story is The Big Dare, and the third person narration opens. Their names are Nightcrawler and Wolverine. One teleports, the other's a hunter. Both are X-Men, members of that band of unsung, often outlaw mutant heroes. This is a game. And Nightcrawler pops up on Wolverine's back, tapping him on the shoulder. Tag, mein Freund, you're it. So one of those classic X-Men games of tag. And the pair playing it out in the backwoods of Professor X's domain. So let's see how this goes. So Wolverine turns around, tries to grab him. That's really nice work there. The anatomy on the arms. Wolverine's arms, very well done. Nightcrawler, of course, teleporting away. Gonna have to try harder than that, he says. And so he is teleporting around and about and somersaulting away from Wolverine. Wolverine falling over onto his back. It's really well told. The storytelling here, great movement and anatomy of the different characters in Bolton's art, and Nightcrawler fairly cocky here. Nice move and fast too, but I was raised in a circus, remember, he says as he leaps away from Wolverine. I learned acrobatics as soon as I began to walk. And what does Logan have to say to that? Fancy footwork's fine for a show, elf, not combat. So that's the hunter's point. And Nightcrawler smiling there. That's really well done. His face, you really get a sense of a distinctive look for the character. I don't just mean in terms of his dark blue furry coloration, but just the face. You can see the expression on his face, like as if Bolton is using some kind of photo model for that particular shot. Nightcrawler responds, "How I do my job, Wolverine, is my business so long as that job is properly done. If I choose to do it with style, a little panache, a lot of fun, where's the harm?" So that's Nightcrawler as devil-may-care, daring-do, Errol Flynn worshipping, fun-loving, fuzzy elf. And he teleports away from Wolverine. Remember, the stench is that of brimstone, rotten egg smell. So Wolverine not bothered with that despite his heightened olfactory sense. "Besides, for all your glum, grim determination," says Nightcrawler, "you've let to lay a glove on me." So this is a nice sequence here. The three similarly sized panels as Wolverine looks one way, then the other way. I really like the work on the back of his neck there by Bolton, and again here where he's swinging around the other way. Nightcrawler smiling there behind him the whole time, but Wolverine has a plan. "Face it, you're beaten," says Nightcrawler. So just at the point of highest pride, Wolverine elbows him in the sternum. "The heck I am," he says. So Nightcrawler caught there, not expecting it. Let's turn the page. So Wolverine now has him by the scruff of the neck. "Don't hear no laughter now, Blue Boy," he says. "My bones are laced with adamantium, makes them virtually unbreakable, stronger than steel. If I'd really hit you, you'd be history." So Wolverine was pulling that elbow, so to speak, and now the claws are extruding, but I prefer to finish the job with my claws. But he's only joking. Now who's beat? So the claws are snacked back up into their bionic housings, which is where they are in this particular era. And Nightcrawler looking a mite pale. So Nightcrawler shaken by that. "For a moment I thought, what's the matter?" replies Logan. "You don't trust the pal?" So Nightcrawler walking back up to the X-Mansion. I really like the detail of the diving board there, so we know that we're looking up at the back of the end of the X-Mansion. So they were out in the backyard area, so to speak, at the woods behind the X-Mansion. "Never happened." Wolverine says, "You don't trust a pal?" "Someday, pal, the shoe will be on the other foot," replies Nightcrawler. "Never happened," says Wolverine. So the bantering here between these pair, very good stuff. And then Logan asks him, "Yo, Elf, where you going?" Nightcrawler replies, "Our bet was loser buys the beer. I was off to get some from the fridge." And here comes the interesting twist in this story. "Forget that," says Logan, big smile on his face. "I've been cooped up in this monastery too flaming long. I'm in a mood to party in town." So interesting that like Logan's attitude, like this is early Wolverine, so he's more emotion driven. He's got less control over that, and he sees the X-Mansion as a monastery, you know, like it's too boring, staid. He's in the mood to party in town. And of course Nightcrawler is Catholic, so he likes, he on the one hand he's Catholic, but also in the same regard he likes his beer, because of course it's the monks that were renowned for brewing beer in the Middle Ages and into the modern period as well. So I just like find the kind of coherence of this, the way that Claremont is scripting things, intriguing. I'm not 100% sure if it's all deliberate, but it's what I see in it anyway. So Nightcrawler says, "If you insist," but he doesn't look too happy. The smile has been knocked off his face, and he says, "But the beer probably won't be as good." So, you know, like he's upset, he's perturbed, and then he pulls out from his costume, from under his costume, this little thing that looks like it's coming from Star Trek. "What the heck is that?" asks Logan. "An image inducer. Professor Xavier secured it for me from industrialist inventor Tony Stark. It casts a perfect illusion to disguise the appearance of its user." So we see him clicking through all of these different image or kind of like images that the little device is capable of inducing Professor X, Storm, and Wolverine himself. With this device, he says, I can look like whomever I please. And at that point, the smile comes back on his face because he's having a little bit of fun with it, playing different roles. Logan says to him, hands on hips, I like that. So his hands are on his hips there and there from a different angle. It's good body language, good acting in the art from John Bolton. What's the matter, misfit? You ashamed of the face you were born with? And Nightcrawler replies, of course not. I'm merely being practical. No sense in terrorizing the local citizenry and thereby making my own and the X-Men's lives miserable. But it seems like he's covering. He's covering from his lack of confidence in going into town in his proper, with his proper appearance. But something else I want to note on these pages is there is minimal background here. Really, this is the only panel with any background establishing that they're in the backyard, so to speak, and down at the woods behind Professor X's mansion. But you don't need any backgrounds here because our focus is on the interaction between these pair, the banter and the emotional drama. But on this page, we do get backgrounds because Bolton is establishing a new location, Harry's hideout rather. And so he's putting some effort into the exterior and the interior of this tavern. And I really like the way that Claremont introduces it as well. Claremont very good at this kind of thing, establishing a location with the kind of prose that is half tourist guide and half history guide. So let's go through this. On the junction of Route 126 and Graymalkin Lane stands a tavern that dates from the Revolutionary War. So that really feels you've got place and time established there regarding the tavern. And done so, with such economy of words. And then continuing, it had fallen on hard times, become in fact a pretty sleazy dive. There doesn't need to be anything about that. But Claremont like imagining the background for this place in the couple of 100 years that it stood there, until Harry Morell bought the property years ago and restored it to its former comfortable charm. The food is good, the service friendly, the atmosphere homey and relaxed. So you, the reader, reading this, you'd like to go there too, right? And I always like the way that Claremont will give characters, background characters, names like this. And that full name there, and the age of Harry Morell makes us wonder whether Claremont doesn't have stories for this guy as well. And we'll see a little bit more implied about that later in this particular story. So back to the third person narration, we get to see the booth there where Nightcrawler using the image inducer and Logan are seated, and we have the detail of Nightcrawler's hat and coat hung up there, and Logan's jacket hung up as well. So it really is like a public house type tavern. The hideout's become an ideal place to spend an afternoon or evening enjoying the company of friends and strangers. And you know, that's why Logan went there, wanting to party, yes? The new X-Men discovered it within days of their arrival at Xavier's school, and in the months since have become welcome regulars. And I like that adjective, welcome regulars. So it's a home away from home for them to get out of the X-Mansion. Nightcrawler there, resting his head on his hand. Talking about his past, I'd mastered the triple somersault. I was working on the quadruple when and he pauses, had to leave the circus. So Logan finding out about Nightcrawler more, looks like he's had fish for his lunch there. Sounds to me like you loved that life, pal. Why'd you quit? And Nightcrawler responds, their Yarmarkt was sold, and the new owner had no interest in me as a trapeze artist. He wanted me on the sideshow as one of the freaks. So that's really terrible, you know, for Nightcrawler. Look at the way that Logan is having a cigarette there as well. So this is the late 70s, early 80s is supposed to be the time period of this. Can't do that anymore. So Logan lights up his cigarette. Aha, then you are ashamed. he says. And at this point, we're halfway through the 12 pages of the story. So we've come to the crux of things. That isn't true, says Nightcrawler. I have pride in myself and my skills, that is all. Not hardly, it ain't, replies Logan. He's not convinced. Proud man, don't hide behind toys. Crawler, how can mutants ever expect to be accepted if we keep hiding behind masks and facades? If we're worth anything, we ought to stand straight up and tell the flaming world. And then he sticks his finger towards Nightcrawler. This is who I am, take it or leave it. But we don't, because we're scared. So Nightcrawler insists I am not. Prove it, says Wolverine. Dump that gizmo and walk right out Harry's door and down Main Street, as you really are. So Nightcrawler replies, that's insane. Then don't do it, says Logan. Play life safe. So what's Nightcrawler going to say? Interesting shot here where we're looking out at Logan in Nightcrawler's position with his hand poised on one of the buttons of the image inducer. Easy for you, he replies to Logan. You don't look so different. The night Herr Professor Xavier rescued me, I was being chased by a mob. So that's a reference back to Giant Size X-Men #1. I'd have been killed if not for him. But Nightcrawler thinks, and this is interesting from Claremont, that's what he says to Logan, but he thinks to himself, and yet the mob thought mistakenly that I was a murderer. There's no reason for anyone here in Salem Center to fear me other than my appearance. And a little bit of graffiti there on the wall. It's kind of funny. Bill, and it's trying to spell Sienkiewicz. And so the first attempt crossed through, and then another one, the correct one there, was here. That's pretty funny. I wonder, is it a joke by Tom Orzechowski rather than Bolton? Maybe it's Orzechowski's joke. So here's Harry come to bring a fresh round. Bottles of beer for the boys. And Nightcrawler's clicked off the image inducer. When I'm sober, assuming I live so long, he says, I've a feeling I shall regret this. And Logan replies, never know. People may surprise you. And Nightcrawler replies, you're enjoying this. It's a joke to you. And this is very interesting from Wolverine. Again, Claremont's characterization of him, thinking about what way Wolverine would be, what his life philosophy is. Life's a joke, pal, he replies. And Nightcrawler just at that point clicks off the image inducer as Harry arrives to the booth with the bottles of beer. And does he react to Nightcrawler's appearance? All he says is he asks the question, another round, lads. Danke, Harry says, Nightcrawler. And then he thinks, he's looking right at me. Unglaublich, I don't believe it. Harry didn't bat an eye, and Logan's enjoying the whole thing. Told you, up and at him, hero. The town awaits. So they drink up, and out they go. Perhaps another gallon of lager before I go, says Nightcrawler. He wonders about that. More courage, but Logan says, you've had enough. Quit stalling, start walking. I'll be right behind you. So see, like the detail was established of the hat hung up on the coat. And he's got a little cane as well to walk with. So he's there looking back at the bar at Harry and the girl. This is not an altogether that is not an altogether comforting thought, he says, when Logan says, I'll be right behind you. So he bids Harry goodbye. Auf Wiedersehen. Harry, Susan recognizes the girl. Lunch was delicious. Anytime, chaps, says Harry. And the girl is surprised. She reacts. That man's face, he has a tail. And this is very interesting in Claremont's scripting of Harry. Like, he's not surprised or moved at all. And a very interesting reply to what she says. Aye, and a handsome one it is too. But she remains nonplussed. And Nightcrawler's stepping out, left the coat behind. So far, so good. Harry's reaction was very nonchalant, he thinks to himself. I've heard mention that he and Professor Xavier were old acquaintances. I wonder if he knows of the school's true nature and us. So that's what I meant when I said earlier about Claremont thinking out a background for this guy. And And Nightcrawler continues, people are staring. And we can see that, like, this guy's looking over, this guy with his pipe. Are they stared in the circus, he thinks. That was different. That was a stage. I was a player, part of the cast. I felt safe there among friends. And Claremont himself, very interested in the theatre, very interested in drama. So he's drawing on that, his own experience of being up on stage, for his characterization of Nightcrawler. Like I was saying earlier, Nightcrawler was always Dave Cockrum's favourite character. And Claremont thinking more about Nightcrawler's character beyond the surface extroverted devil-may-care persona. Logan following along, big smile on his face. Are not the X-Men friends, he continues to think? Consider this then a larger stage. Smile. A little courtesy and charm won't hurt. So who are these two here? Claremont gives them names. It's an actor, Doris, says the man. George, that's the best makeup I've ever seen, she replies. Or maybe a fraternity initiation from the college. And she's carrying a Union Jack handbag or bag there. So I have a feeling these are people that either Claremont knows or Bolton does, or maybe they're characters from a soap opera or TV show or something. If you know out there watching this video, let me know in the comment section. Logan continuing along, that big smile on his face, and Nightcrawler happy with the way that things are going, but it looks like it might change. Fantastisch, he thinks to himself. I'm actually beginning to enjoy this. So the smile is back on his face. And then he sees the woman struggling with her shopping. Guten Tag, mein Herr. Oh, sorry, he says it to the construction worker. Guten Tag, mein Herr. A lovely afternoon, is it not? He gets no reply from him. But he sees the woman struggling with the shopping, coming out of the shop, by that storefront. A damsel in distress. So he's back into his Errol Flynn type ways. And we see him here being very charming and debonair. May I be of assistance, Fraulein, as he picks up her shopping bag. And she hesitantly says, thank you, that's very kind. And then he doffs his cap to her. And you are very lovely. If ever I may be of further assistance, you have but to ask me. Looks like he kisses her on the cheek as he hands her her shopping bag. What an extraordinary young man, she exclaims. That he is, ma'am, says Logan as he tips his hat towards her. And she thinks, great smile. Be nice to meet him again. So things going well for Nightcrawler. He passes by the cinema. This is a nice little scene as well from Claremont. And he engages the kids coming out from Star Wars. You young gentlemen like this film? I also. And that's Claremont. He knows that that's the way that a German speaker would express it, translating into English. Ich auch is what they would say. So I like that little touch. Chewbacca's my favourite character, says Nightcrawler, which is funny. I have a friend who's much shorter but almost as hairy, and I always let him win too. So a funny reference to the Star Wars film there. And so the two kids, they've got names too. One of them, the younger one there, says, Edward, he says, wait till we tell Mummy and Daddy James we just met a real live alien. Now, what if these were, like, Mummy, that is a British expression for mother, or like Americans would say mom or mommy. Well, I don't know, you'd want to be very young to say mommy, but Mummy is very specifically British. I wonder, are these the children of George and Doris, and they were in watching the film while their parents were out shopping? That's my little guess anyway. So Nightcrawler continues along, and of course, you know, we're on to the penultimate page. There's got to be some little problem here, some complication, and it looks like Westchester's, Salem Center's town bullies here. So he sees them. I had a feeling this stroll was too pleasant to last, he says. And the bully boy outside the car says, catch a load of the geek. And the guy in the driver's seat says, geez, Marty, what's this town coming to? And Marty replies, they'll let anything walk the streets. Interesting top-down angle here, kind of varies the point of view of the reader. Again, you can see that once John Bolton is happy that he's established the space, he'll pull away the background so that we're focused in on the characters. So the guy, the driver says, "Yo, dweeb, you loose from the zoo or the loony bin or what?" And Nightcrawler replies with his German, his Bavarian accent, "I beg your pardon." So the guy, Marty, says, "Radical accent. Maybe he's Arnold Schwarzenegger in disguise. You know what you look like, Kraut?" "Yeah, isn't it wonderful," says Nightcrawler. "If you've no objection, Mynheer, I will continue." But he puts his hand on his chest and starts feeling for the mask on his face. "When we're finished, weirdo." And then he's taken by surprise. This ain't no mask. And he's winding up there to punch him. "Whatever you are, it's real." And Nightcrawler grabs his wrist. "Please calm yourself. I want no trouble." So we've one more page to go. Are we going to get some action here at the end? How is this going to be resolved? How's Nightcrawler going to deal? Like, he had such good experiences up to this point with the woman who might be interested in a date, and the kids, and so on and so forth. What about this guy? How's this going to be resolved? Well, Logan steps in and he tackles the guy into the side of the car. Too late for that, misfit. Chump called the tune. He extrudes his claws there. Now he pays the piper. So remember, this is Logan in his kind of, still in his wild man, psycho killer phase, long before he calmed down. So Logan has really helped Nightcrawler here with all of this, and Nightcrawler's helping him too. Jumps on his back. "Wolverine, no," he exclaims, and teleports them. So the guys here on the ground are shocked. They say, "Let's blow this berg and never come back." So they're not going to have any more run-ins with X-Men enjoying Harry's Tavern and the town. And where did Nightcrawler go? Up onto the roof of this building here, like a 2-story building. And Logan's looking down from the roof. "Should have let me carve the bozo." And Nightcrawler's response is interesting. "Humane, and spoil my lovely stroll? He wasn't worth it." "You were right, Wolverine," he says. "I'm glad you shamed me into taking your dare. What I learned today, I can never repay." And Logan shaking his hand, "Hey, Elf, what are friends for?" So this is really the beginning of Logan and Kurt's fast friendship over the years. The games they would play, the beers they drink. It all really happens here, and it's a very well thought out, emotionally heartfelt and meaningful story that Claremont has come up with for a character that really wasn't his favorite originally, but he's really done something special here in this. Only 12 pages, remember. Really, really excellent stuff. So I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on the backup story of Classic X-Men number 4. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section. And if you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.